Good evening, everyone. You are watching RPG Limit Break, and we're hosting a match in the Final Fantasy Randomizer 2020 Spring Tournament. Tonight, we're bringing you ShadowWalker 227 versus saltyphry. Our crew tonight is myself, Cheesenator, on comms, and I'm joined by Min in the booth. Hello.
Hello.
And behind the scenes, we have Leggy Starscream doing the restream and Spellzap doing our tracking, so big thank you to our crew, and big thank you to RPG Limit Break for hosting. We will be getting the race started soon here on this Week 1 matchup. I'll be letting the runners know to start in just a couple of moments. But before we get going, I'll tell you a little bit about what you can expect to see tonight. We've got a flag set that features the Sea Shrine as an incentive location. That's part of the Spring Tournament's theme of weeks focused on incentive fiend dungeons. This week is Sea, next week could be Fire or Earth or Sky, so look forward to that.
So these two runners have been around in the community for quite a long time. ShadowWalker 227 was in the finals of last year's spring tournament, has been around since the 2018 spring tournament. saltyphry has been around since pretty much the Randomizer's inception and went undefeated in the 2018 Swiss rounds.
All right, I've dropped the gate. So on our side, we'll see the runner starting in a couple of seconds, and the stream will catch up very shortly and bring you the action right into Canoe town. The players have chosen their own party compositions tonight. As you can see, ShadowWalker and saltyphry have different parties, with ShadowWalker taking what's known as the Fighter Rainbow, and saltyphry opting for a Thief instead of the Red Mage. In our level 1 white magic shop, we don't have much to talk about, to be honest, but our level 1 black shop features Ice 3, which is a fantastically powerful AoE spell to get going with and clear our first packs of enemies.
Silver bracelets in the armor shop for 5,000. Unfortunately, probably not going to be that useful. And we see the TNT is the vendor item. Pretty dirt cheap too.
Yeah, with that cheap of a vendor item, we might be able to see them pick that up as soon as they get back from defeating Garland at the Temple of Fiends and make a quick trip over to the Dwarves.
Both runners,
go ahead.
Both runners making their way up to Temple of Fiends to defeat Garland. Garland will award you... Killing Garland will send you back to Canoe Castle and reward you with 2 key items to start this.
Yep, and it looks like saltyphry is going straight in for the fight, having already taken a bit of damage, and so we got at least one warrior on one knee, but 228 from the Ice 3 takes Garland out in one shot. ShadowWalker's in the middle of a kind of iffy-looking Grimp encounter, while saltyphry picks up the cube from the King and the bottle from Sarah. Can't do much with those yet.
ShadowWalker going to check the chest, and there's a loose crown. So some of the highlights of this flag set is you have a loose canal, so you have to find the canal first to be able to exit the inner sea and go to the outer continents. Well, we also have additionally 3 loose items, while 1 being eaten up by the incentive location for the week, and this week it'll be in Sea Shrine.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of turn-ins to do already. This is a pretty rapid pace for key items. Between that loose crown and that TNT, we've got 2 things to go check on the west side of the inner sea. We also have to go over to Provoka and talk to Bicky and fight his pirates to see what key item he'll be holding.
ShadowWalker picking up his cube and bottle. Bottle unfortunately not useful until we can get the airship. And saltyphry getting their crown.
I have to say I do like saltyphry's opening strategy here. It's a little bit different, but it's less risky. If you immediately walk up, take care of the Garland fight, go back and save, then you can come back up to TOF, especially if there weren't any save items available, come back up to TOF, check 3 chests, and if there's nothing there, you just reset. But if, of course, it's your canal or whatever, then you're happy to walk it back.
ShadowWalker heading over to Provoka, pretty standard play this early on in the scene, because you could kill the pirates and get another pretty free-ish key item.
Yep, and as well, we're going to get a look at the level 2 magic, which is also usually pretty cheap.
Heal 2
that's
wall lock and cure
powerful.
4. Is that white mage lock?
The level 2 magic can be learned by all. Wow,
And there's
and
nuke too.
Nuke. This is stacked level 2 magic, so the red mage and black mage are going to have nuke. The red mage, white mage, and eventually a promoted knight can all get cure 4 and life, so it's going to make the end game a lot simpler.
Saltyphry opting to tackle the pirates first before taking the magic, which is a fine play considering they have Ice 3.
Yes, and it's a little bit of an optimization because you get a bunch of cash from the pirates, so then you can go check the magic shops and get all the magic the first time you look.
There's the loot. Pirates definitely required.
Alright, so while they're both taking care of their business in Provoka, I'll tell you a few more of the important features of this flag set. We have 2 loose items that are not the canal tonight. The canal is always loose, but there are 2 loose incentives. We don't know yet which ones will be required because of how the seed rolled them, but there are 3 pieces of non-required gear in the pool: the Thor hammer, the opal bracelet, and the power gauntlet. So depending on where those fall, we may still see runners looking for an additional 1 loose item beyond the crown that we found in Temple of Fiends.
Alright, Saltyphry picking up their level 2 magic. The ShadowWalker going to take a quick save and sail out of Provoka. I would assume either to Matoya's cave or to turn in, or back to get the TNT. Probably to Matoya's to get money for the TNT.
Yeah, this is a great check here, both for the reasons you said, as well as we have to narrow down whether or not we need the canal and whether or not we need to dive Marsh Cave. There are 8 chests in the inner sea outside of Marsh Cave that will let you know whether that's going to happen. And beyond that, there's our canal.
There's the canal.
So with that information in hand, we, for the time being, can skip Marsh Cave. Of course, you never know, we might have to come back later. But the turn-ins that we haven't seen yet, such as the TNT and Crown, could have been, say, the Canoe. And you can also get Canoe before Canal and end up with more accessible chests in the inner sea, or in the inner continent, rather.
Yeah, 1 loose and no canal and Marsh is shaping up to be hopefully pretty quick, but as seeds that open up as potential jet seeds can quickly turn very sloppy.
Yeah, absolutely. And just with the canal opening up, you already have a number of options on the outer portions of the sea. You can go and dive into Earth Cave. You can head all the way over to Crescent Lake and see what key item is hiding there. We'll probably see runners look for a few more key item turn-ins before making those big decisions, because a canoe or a rod, for example, or an oxail would greatly influence the routing.
ShadowWalker doing a quick shopping trip to grab his TNT and a few heal pots. Heal potions are extremely useful in the randomizer as they let you heal up without the need of spells.
Yep, and a good stack of maybe 10-20 pure potions at most should also cover you for the seed for enemies that poison you with attacks or abilities.
Right, ShadowWalker heading over to his dwarf cave to turn in his TNT and probably, I would assume, to check the 2 chests there as well. Ooh, ogres have toxic.
Yeah, we've seen our first pretty bad script of the game. So a very common feature of this randomizer is to shuffle the spells, skills, and scripts on random enemies. That means that just about anyone can cast anything that was in the original enemy pool. So ogres rolled a script, and on its script was the skill Toxic, which is a mass death AoE.
There's our rod from the TNT dwarf. That is the one of few required items for the seed to be completed. And Astos giving us a crystal.
Oh, that's kind of a reverse fetch quest almost, because normally, or actually, wait.
No, you do. No, you definitely turn in crown for crystal.
Oh yeah, that's vanilla, huh? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget how the original fetch quest sequence goes because I'm so used to ping-ponging in other directions in the randomizer.
For sure. Question in chat, ShadowWalker did not do Crown. He went straight to Dwarves to turn in his TNT.
Yeah, and both routes are pretty much equally valid at this point. There's not too much travel time between these locations, and without the canoe, you can't connect between them really quickly. So, if you're going towards Astos first, maybe you're thinking, oh, I might find the key, and if you go towards Dwarves first, you're thinking, oh, well, maybe I want to wait to find the adamant to make this trip more optimal, that sort of thing.
Alright, saltyphry checking out Alpha Magic, level 3. We have Brack, Lit 2, Slow 2, and Lock. Lock is a pretty important spell now because with the randomizer we have it fixed so that it will always hit, which is very helpful for high evade bosses. Level 3 White Magic has Exit, another very important spell.
And that's a great slot for Exit to fall in, because saltyphry's party without a white mage here is not going to be held back at all in terms of escaping dungeons. That's something that is a concern which will often lead people to bring a white mage in the first place.
There's a heal 3 on level 4. And for Black, level 4, to finish this out, we've got Fast.
Well, we're pretty close to having all the magic that we need just to win a seed, sort of in general. We've got curative magic, AoE, we've got some speed in the form of exit to escape dungeons, and we've got offensive buffs for the late game.
Armor shop, looking for gold bracelets or pro rings, and we still have not found those yet as far as I know.
Yeah, some decent options in saltyphry's inventory already. The chain armors that you can buy from the shop are 15 a pop, so pretty good defense there. And that pro cape that was picked up in Matoya's cave is 8, so at least able to keep the red mage and the fighter safe so far.
ShadowWalker gonna grab his crystal, meanwhile saltyphry on the way up to turn his in.
One thing to note about these party comps, and in particular how to execute their strategy, saltyphry, you'll notice, is already leaving that thief dead on purpose. That's for experience point distribution. The experience enemies give is split between all living non-stoned party members. So by having the thief down, the other 3 will level up faster, and that's going to really help saltyphry progress to do more difficult things and ultimately dive the end game. But we may see the thief come back at some point as a utility.
There's an early Oxy out, and what is something to note is that Sea Shrine is incentivized, and with open progression on, we have a dock at Onrek, so we can sail straight to Onrek and get there without the canoe.
Yeah, and that's going to happen a lot in Sea Week. If you've been watching our other races, which have been across a number of networks, we're already 4 days into the tournament. People have had to make all kinds of risky early Sea Shrine dives. The enemies there are not super easy. However, today I think we'll be in better shape because of our magic. We'll also be able to leave the inner sea soon and leave behind these ogres, because without pro rings yet we have no death protection, so that toxic could come out and wipe someone again.
For sure. Pro rings are definitely useful this early because they'll protect you against death spells, which are going to kill you.
Yeah, and in particular, there are a lot of different spells and skills that have instant death effects on the players in a variety of elements, not all of which are protected by the pro ring. There are a few in different elements, but it'll be much later in the game, I think, when we see them find the equipment that helps with those.
ShadowWalker, we're gonna head over to Melmond, probably to check out the magic and maybe dip into Earth Cave potentially.
Yeah, I mean, Earth Cave is a place that there are 5 pretty quickly accessible chests right there on the top floor, so it's a reasonable play, but it looks like he's going around the continent. He's going to wrap over to Crescent Lake for a guaranteed incentive item.
Earth wouldn't be a terrible play here, considering there could be some pretty free grind tiles in there, as well as us already having access to the rod.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I should mention another important flag we're running is, oh, by the way, $20,000 for pro ring there in the Melmond Armor Shop. A flag we're running tonight is the B-side or alternative shuffled forced encounter tiles. That means that there are a number of encounters you don't even see in the vanilla game that have been distributed amongst the steps and dungeons where an encounter would normally be sort of like a mini boss, and there are packs of those that are worth just gobs of experience.
That's typically where we'll end up doing our grinding if we can find a nice one. Our Circle of Sages will have our slab. Unfortunately, that is not able to be turned in right now as we do not have the airship.
Yeah, 2 of our key items already require the airship in order to do the full turn-in, so doesn't give us a lot of progression right now. We're going to be really examining these early couple of dungeons, hopefully picking up the canoe and floater before too long. Worst case scenario would be like getting access to the Sky Castle and then needing to look for a loose canoe or floater up there.
It's looking at me like there's either going to be a loose ruby or a canoe somewhere. Probably Earth Cave or Marsh Cave.
Yeah, since we're getting funneled down to just I believe one new incentive location remaining in the Sea Shrine, it's what you said. We need a key item that opens up multiple new key items.
Oh, that too. Yeah, the Sea Shard. I completely forgot about that.
Ooh, and it looks like we're getting a lot of anonymous gift subs in chat. Credit to Anonymous, of course. They've gifted subs at tier 1 to Gar27, Beowulf0630, T Murdoch 8, Passamorpheus, and J to the Vise. Congratulations everyone on your new sub, and enjoy RPG Limit Break.
I agree with Demon Frog in chat. C is a great play here because we already have access to it, and Mermaids is tons and tons of free chests if you can get to them. And we also do have exit.
Yeah, we're pretty well set up to have a successful early scout into the Sea Shrine. We don't necessarily need to finish the whole dungeon and kill Kraken, just the right side would be enough to get an incentive.
I'm gonna call Ruby on the incentive chest on that leads to Canoe and floater.
Seems like a pretty reasonable bet. Right off the bat here, ShadowWalker is greeted by an unrunnable encounter that's always 9 enemies. 1 or 2 of them can be Wizard Sahags. This has to be unrunnable based on how the original game was programmed and how battles are paired together. This is the alternate side of a boss fight. And One Fine Day, who's in chat, hello, is responsible for programming a change to that that might come out in the future.
ShadowWalker probably gonna pick up a couple of chests or a chest or 2 on his way down to the Mermaids floor. Some nice chests here because they're pretty quick to get to and not really restricted behind any.
Yeah, this pathing ShadowWalker is taking is very interesting. He's not full clearing this floor, and in fact, he skipped a chest already on the right side of the first floor. This might be a little bit early to read into it, but what this is telling me about his strategy is I've already found 1 loose item. I'm not going to necessarily be super thorough with my clear, because if I don't find the second loose item, it might not matter, it might not be required, and the odds are already pretty low.
Picking up a rune sword, that's probably the best weapon we've found so far.
Yeah, Rune Sword has an elemental advantage against a handful of enemies, so that'll help out the fighter.
And there's our Canoe.
Alright, Canoe is a great pickup here. It means we don't have to do a lot of backtracking before making further progression. We're already on the continent that features the Waterfall, another incentive location, and the Canoe opens that up.
Yeah, Canoe will open up Waterfall Cave, Castle of Ordeals, and Volcano and Ice Cave as well. I probably missed one or two, but those are off the top of my head.
So on the right side of your screen, it looks like saltyphry opted to bring back up the Thief. Maybe a good idea here, because if you're going to go into the Sea Shrine, you'll need to get away from more dangerous encounters, and it's still early enough that the Thief is not siphoning away too much of that needed experience for the other members. And as chat points out, we saw in the center top chests in Mermaids, ShadowWalker picked up a Coral Sword, which is cool, and an Excalibur, which is really cool. That's a post-promotion Knight equipable weapon that has elemental effectivity against every single type of enemy that has a type or a weakness.
Pretty solid sword if you have nothing else to fall back on, and it will again hit every single weakness available to you.
So already one difference we'll be able to call attention to. Saltyphry is about to open a chest that ShadowWalker skipped, and there'll probably be more of these going forward. So little advantages could creep up if, say, certain gears passed by and picked up by one runner or the other, or, heaven forbid, a loose item that's passed by would be a big game changer.
Chat pointing out that if they had level 1 brag, they could do Kraken, take it to Kraken. Some specific boss. So, unlike most other RPGs, instant death spells are actually pretty useful in this game because they work. If you know what each boss is weak to and have access to those spells, you can kill some bosses pretty much earlier than you might have otherwise been able to.
Absolutely. ShadowWalker's made it over halfway through the Waterfall, not getting too bad of encounters here, and has still got all 4 Light Warriors up. The Waterfall here has, I believe, 6 treasure chests, plus the robot will hand you an incentive. And we got a kind of a meh spike tile here, just hoping to either run or get past it with a nuke.
Could be some decent experience, but otherwise, yeah. We get the Power Gauntlet from the robot. The Power Gauntlet is useful now because also another new feature of the Randomizer is that Temper and Saber actually function and buff your party's attack, which can be very useful in doing a lot of damage very quickly to Fiends.
Yeah, that's one of those win conditions you love to have in your back pocket. A single Light Warrior that uses the Power Bonk can win the game against any enemy, with just a matter of time, as long as you can keep them alive.
Saltyphry gonna get his Canoe pretty momentarily, and ShadowWalker's gonna stop for another shopping trip in Onrak to pick up some camping gear and probably some extra heal pots as well.
Yep, but I'm thinking we'll probably see a trip over to Ordeals, if only because ShadowWalker's levels are still kind of low, so diving the left side of C is pretty risky and won't necessarily yield any incentive items. He's probably looking to get into the air, so right now the prime prize is that floater.
Gonna save at the end real quick while Saltyphry heads over to his C incentive chest. And no, maybe he is going back into left side C.
Wow, all right, I respect this as well. So there are 2 schools of thought here. One is that don't make the risky dive, back out and just come back, do it more quickly, more efficiently, safely later. But the other argument is you're here now, it's trip time, transit time, you don't want to double dip dungeons, so getting this whole continent out of the way and never having to come back is a speed in of itself.
Especially considering we don't have to go and check the desert vendor for the vendor item.
Yeah, that that being taken care of so early and so cheaply is pretty uncommon. It was nice to see that TNT back in Kenya.
Saltyphry is gonna save at the end, and we'll see what they do next. Heading straight for Waterfall Cave.
Cool, cool. So It looks like what we're seeing now is the runners are following basically the same route, sans, going in different directions in the inner sea to turn in their key item checks, but they're making the same plays up to this point, and saltyphry is about one waterfall clear behind. We may see the difference between the runners shift as their routes diverge beyond this, because Salty may not go back into Sea Shrine.
If I were in this position, I would have gone straight to Ordeals. Ice is really risky, like you said, to clear this early with these levels, and there's a stone touch. This is why I don't like diving Sea Shrine this early, because Sea can be evil.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. So we did see ShadowWalker stock up on a lot of essentials in the item shop, but I don't know what his supply of soft potions is.
I don't think he bought any.
Wow, alright, so he's still
doesn't look like he
pushing
did.
through. Ooh, and picks up a Sun Sword. That'll help the Red Mage deal a little bit of damage to get through these packs here up to Kraken. So I think he's betting on Nuke and or Break. Both strategies can be valid, but I think if you're looking to high roll and quickly take advantage of the seed and not give Kraken too many turns to attack you, he'll probably be going and firing off Break.
Like I mentioned earlier, some bosses are weak to specific instant death spells, and Kraken is very much weak to Brack. Bracking him is not a very uncommon. There's a Masa right there. Sea Shrine loaded with equipment.
So I'm going to make a... Yes, I love this. I was about to make the case for ShadowWalker exiting, whether it's going back in to follow that or just being like, I got a Maza, it's going to speed up the rest of my seed. I've already had something pay off from this dive. And good on him. There's no soft potions available. He's eliminating that risk of wiping to Kraken and getting his Maza lost to time.
Masa is one of 4 typically used endgame swords, which are the Masa, the Vorpal, the Excal, and the defense sword. Masa has this highest base power, but high base power, low crit rate. Vorpal is low base power, high crit rate. Defense sword is decent damage, but what it's very much meant for is it casts Ruse, which lets one of your characters evade better, and then the Excalibur, which hits every weakness.
Yep, and as Tarnin points out in chat, that Sunsword picked up right before the Maza is the second best pre-promotion weapon that fighters and red mages can equip. So we briefly had a really good weapon that wasn't the best, and then it immediately got outclassed by getting an elite weapon.
ShadowWalker heading straight to Ordeals. I agree with this play completely, because you took that Canoe out of Sea Shrine and you're already up here. And with his levels, it shouldn't be too terribly bad to clear unless the trap tile is really awful.
Yeah, so there'll be one definite tile that ShadowWalker's forced through in order to progress. However, having exit, he'll have the option, if he feels it too risky, to just exit straight from the incentive chest rather than walk out through the other forced tile. And saltyphry is mirroring this, so the runners have actually gotten back just about on the same page, but of course the big difference is the Maza and the Sun Sword on Shadow's side, so a bit better melee, but otherwise not a super huge impact in terms of progression.
No impact on progression, but it definitely helps impact the speed at which you can clear things. Shadow's damage output will be that much higher just off that Masa alone, I think.
Yeah, especially if we were in a seed where we were dealing with like much worse magic, and that was a bigger upgrade proportionately, I would call it a bigger lead for him. But I think with the 2 nuke casters on each team, we're going to be okay diving most dungeons up until we get into the later portions of the game. We have to, say, go through Sky and take on Tiamat and so forth.
I think the most surprising part about this race is that both runners have pretty much taken the same route the entire race.
Yeah, this key item layout didn't leave a lot of room for variance, and because they found one loose item so early, it's much more signaling to move onward towards incentive locations quickly rather than make gambles like Earth and Marsh.
ShadowWalker taking a nasty light to Gargoyles with first turn Blaze. So how the enemy scripts work in this game is that they have a specific list of spells, and they'll flick through those skills depending on their chance to use one, and they'll go down the list with each individual skill. As I think that's how it works anyway.
Yeah, so that's the first skill in the list. So if you encounter that same pack again, you're liable to see the same outcomes. So ShadowWalker probably just went straight back into the dungeon to go in on a different part of the encounter table. Encounter table is an important fundamental in Final Fantasy Randomizer. There are 16 encounters that you progress through based on your steps, and when you press the power button and turn off and turn on your system, you power cycle. Otherwise, if you just do a soft reset, which is enabled by emulators and certain hardware modifications, you go to the next fight in the encounter table from the last fight you were on. So Shadow's looking to get different encounters, hopefully not see those red gargoyles at all.
Pretty sure in terms of hardware that the randomizer is hard-coded to soft reset on up and A, and there we find a black shirt in Castle Ordeals. Black shirt is a very good armor piece for a promoted black mage, and I think it casts Ice 2 when you use.
Yeah, black shirt's a pretty solid piece of late game gear. Sometimes it's even possible to incentivize. But speaking of incentives, we have our two.
That's two vanilla items.
You're absolutely right. It is. And once we're in the air, both these parties benefit greatly from promotion. As we already noted earlier, there's fantastic magic for that knight to learn. The ninja that comes from the thief not only gets a gear upgrade, but will get nuke as well.
Both runners back out on the sea, and we'll see what they do next. I would assume they're going to Earth. They could go to Ice Cave though too for the incentivized item.
Yeah, there's still a good amount of possible divergence on the table, but ShadowWalker wisely uses this south side dock on near Elfland, coming back from Ordeals, to get a quick soft potion because he needs that fighter. That is not an intentional fourth party member down like we've seen the thief occasionally for saltyphry.
Both of them taking a quick pit stop in Elfland to pick up magic and items with the new money they just collected from their dungeon dive.
Yeah, one thing about this flag set that's a little different than ways you can play the randomizer is that the early game magic is kind of expensive. You can set price scaling just like you can set enemy scaling and other factors. And between the experience and price scaling, you can end up with $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, sometimes $6,000 magic in the shops in Elfland. It's really hard to come in and get all that your first time unless you get like a max roll gold chest on the inner sea.
I've even seen it go up to as high as 16,000 in Melmond.
Wow.
ShadowWalker heading over to Crescent Lake one more time. I would assume this is a Volcano play.
Oh, wait.
Or
Here
maybe
we
it's
go.
Ice Cave. Ice Cave is one of our incentivized locations, and there will be one of our incentive pool items here.
This dock has, and specific, this river inlet has been getting used more, I think, in this spring tournament than I've ever seen it in the randomizer before. It's like everyone just remembered it was there again. So this is the vanilla way to dock and use your canoe to get to Ice Cave, but the randomizer features a number of map edits that actually open it up more, so you can do what saltyphry is doing and use your canoe to get all the way from Crescent to Volcano to Ice and back and forth between any of those. And actually we're seeing route divergence. It's going to be Ice versus Volcano. Ice is an incentive, Volcano has more chests, and a required Fiend.
Definitely two different reasons to clear both of them. I'm not sure which one I'd rather pick. Volcano will give you a lot more gear and it will help you, it'll let you knock out a required boss, but Ice Cave also has a key item that could be required for progression.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing some of the effects of the previous trips play out. Like ShadowWalker got better gear by doing left side C, so if he's feeling more comfortable with his gear, he's not as concerned about looking for a lot of chests, whereas Salty still probably wants to power up that party a little bit.
Also a fair point. Some money in the first chest, a Frost Giant Frostwolf tile. This can be some okay experience. Well, it looks like
Yeah.
they hit really hard.
Something has stun touch. I want to say it was the giant, though. If it's the giants, they're not that worrisome because there's only 2 of them. But either way, they do hit hard.
That was like 60 damage to a fighter or something. And they have very high HP as well.
Yeah, so he's taken a bit of a beating here, but honestly, the experience is going to be worth it. That's a great pack, and already got his frontman up to 16.
Gonna dive into the big cluster of chests here. This is usually a good spot to check because it just has a lot of items. There's an ice sword, a decent sword if you have nothing else to use. Probably one of the better ones.
Yeah, the ice sword pickup lets us, or lets Salty specifically move an ice sword onto the red mage, who will then still be doing respectable melee damage, in addition to that fighter who had the sun sword. Ice armor is super protective, pre-promotion equipable, gives fire resistance as well as a lot of absorb.
This tile has 3 Cerebuses and a Wiz over here. This is also some decent experience. While probably not as much as Frost Giant Frostwolves, it's a lot. It might be a lot easier and still give enough experience for this phase of the game.
I would like to thank Spellzap, our tracker, doing a great job with this match so far. Informed us that on the left side of your screen, ShadowWalker has run into Wraiths, a very common enemy in Ice Cave that have Death Touch. There is 1 Death Touch in the game. It comes from Sorcerers in Vanilla, also in Ice Cave. And Death Touch, unless you have really high magic defense, you're not guarding against that, so that can be a fast way to ruin your day.
Muck tile on those of the Frosty child, that's not very worth it to kill. Unless you have a black shirt. Yeah, no, that's not very much experience.
Yeah, so one of the things the runners can't really control or account for is like what kind of enemies will roll what scripts, touches, and so forth in each of their dungeons, and that's just part of the nature of playing this game. Salty going with a very fun route through Volcano 3 here, or is 4, 3 or 4 rather. Yeah, that was sweet. But what I was getting at is that if ShadowWalker got turned away by really bad touches, script spells, whatever in Ice Cave, he might end up mirroring Salty's play in the Volcano instead, just to do something he could finish. But he looks to be getting through the rest of it okay.
Salty pulling the pooled needle out of the chest, also known as the Vorpal, one of our endgame swords.
This forced encounter tile here ShadowWalker just got to was, oh my goodness! Okay, so Iron Goals are an endgame enemy. They are only found in Vanilla as the Encounter 8, rarest encounter on the Tiamat 2 floor in Temple of Fiends Revisited, and by default they're unrunnable. They have very high defense and very high attack power. ShadowWalker just found a spike tile in Ice that had low hit point Iron Goals. They're worth so much EXP. I'm so sad he only took 1 fight.
He probably just wants to get out of here considering the Death Touch Wraiths.
I agree. Yeah, it's probably better not to invest time when you might lose it all to a wipe.
There's a ribbon in the Volcano 4. Ribbons are the best helmet you can equip. I'm pretty sure they protect against all statuses, all elements.
Yeah, so we're seeing each of these runners with their respective routes get payout in terms of making their party stronger and safer. And Salty getting that ribbon will help him when he goes the other direction to do Ice Cave, if that's the route he needs to go. We're about to find out what this incentive chest is here on ShadowWalker's side to know if it was required or not.
Mine's a gold bracelet and the Cash Tana. Unfortunately not going to be used here because he does not have a thief, but that could pay out for saltyphry if they decide to bring the thief back.
Ooh, that's a rough ambush here. The sorcerers on this spike tile immediately took out ShadowWalker's red mage. But he's probably gonna. I don't want to curse it. He's gonna try to get away. Okay, he did.
There's the ruby. The ruby is a big ticket key item in this flag set because we have Titan's Trove incentive on, which also leads to Sardis Cave, which is 2 incentive checks from 1 item.
Yeah, odds are super duper high at this point that ruby leads to a floater in one of those 2 spots. It is a long round trip to go all the way from here to there and come back and turn in your floater, but if that's what you have to do to get in the air, so be it.
Especially considering how much time the airship can save over your opponent if you get it and the other person doesn't.
Yeah, I think the worst case scenario for saltyphry would have been getting some kind of loose progression here in Volcano, and then deciding to follow that in absence of going to ice, and then being led astray. But without finding anything like that, he'll be funneled back to Ice Cave pretty quickly once he defeats Carrie in probably a couple minutes, assuming the fight's not too bad.
Something to note, he picked up another pro ring in that chest, a nice pickup considering how expensive they were in a
It's a great question. Leggy, our streamer, asks in chat, why is ShadowWalker running back to Provoka? Must have missed some of the key magic early. Yeah, because of the prices when he first visited the shop. He didn't have fully redundant copies of some of those important things, but he's all set now.
saltyphry has pulled Carrie and she goes down to a nuke. That is our first orb lit at the 39-minute and 50-second mark.
That's really cool. So these runners just did about 1 dungeon each, which means they're relatively on the same pace, but ShadowWalker may go mode the Volcano later, and then just kill Carrie quickly, kind of getting back some of the time, whereas saltyphry did do the full clear.
saltyphry looks to be heading up towards Ice Cave, I thought.
Yeah, that makes sense. No real other better option, right? You've got an incentive location right here versus heading all the way back to somewhere else and gambling on Marsh or Earth. I think you would only make plays like that if you felt super duper behind.
Super behind or outmatched, personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
And considering these runners are pretty equal in terms of skill level, I do not disagree with this play at all.
Yeah, I think both of them know who they're up against. We've got Titans of former, speaking of Titans, about to enter the Titans Trove. We've got Titans of former spring tournaments here who have had deep bracket runs. They both know they execute quickly, and they're going to follow the optimal route to the best of their ability, rather than make high-risk gambles.
Gerwolves with Dark, not very dangerous, but gonna waste a lot of time.
I do have to laugh. Like, it's funny to see a script like that that's just so harmless, but it's just wasting your time, just sitting there, dark, 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 dark.
It only hurts your timer.
And your feelings.
And there they are again, but he ambushed them this time, so he can get away guaranteed.
Speaking of what's things we need to get away from, a Wraith Pack here, death touching saltyphry's party, but the Red Mage gets a nuke off and is alive to resurrect that fighter afterwards, so not too shabby.
Titan's Trove leading to a key. That is a very important item because there is just one door in Topher that you need to walk through that requires the key for some unknown reason. And there's our Adamant on Sarda.
Yep, so this Adamant could send us on a fetch quest hunt if it doesn't give us that finality of the floater to give us in the air. And if so, we'd be looking for loose maybe in the key locks with the key that just opened up. We have suddenly a lot more explorable space. But I still feel like it's a pretty good bet that the floater comes off this incentive chain.
It's going to be Adamant to Herb to Thorhammer.
Ooh, that would just be devious, and then like
That's how it
floater
always goes.
on Earth 4 or something.
saltyphry picking up his ruby, using the warp trick, where you can in Ice Cave. Warp has a special property where it just takes you back to the last place you exited a floor. So if you just drop down the hole in the middle of all 3 chests and warp, you will be standing right on top of the hole, and you can just grab the chests.
Yeah, really convenient. Something that you only see in the randomizer because in the vanilla game you don't have access to warp before Ice Cave.
ShadowWalker taking on the bridge boss.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a 43-minute bridge boss. You love to see it.
And there's our chime.
Oh my god.
We have full access to Sky now.
Yeah, I'm just looking around. I'm confirming we do not have another incentivized location that hasn't been visited. We suddenly have left side C, a couple more chests in right side C, all of Earth Cave, all of Sky Castle, and the floating fortress that can be.
ShadowWalker's in go mode.
Wait, what?
He's go mode. He has loot, key, oxyale, chime, cube, and rod.
Oh, floaterless go! I didn't even see it.
Floaterless go mode.
This is why I'm grateful to have a such a receptive commentary partner with me to catch what I don't. That's perfect, actually, to be honest. Like Shadow of anyone, he's gonna be more than happy to execute an early floaterless go. He loves
that
to
is
just.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say he loves to just play through seed just aggressively fast. He is someone who doesn't like to level too much. He wants to just get his go mode, check as few chests as possible, and just zip through it. That's his playstyle that he can back up with the execution. So I would not be surprised at all to him just not checking too much more for that floater.
Looks like he's gonna check. I don't know if he realizes he's in go mode.
It certainly surprised me, but also he's doing some pretty safe resets here off of his save right outside, so he might be saying to himself, if I don't promote, I'll be missing out on certain gear, or if I don't promote, I'll be missing out on certain spells. Night Learnable Life is still a thing, so maybe he's got a set amount of chests. He'll tolerate, like, he'll check 20 chests maybe, and if the floater doesn't come by then, he'll just resign himself to winning with what he has.
Demon Frog putting out in chat he could be digging for ribbons as well.
That's another great point. saltyphry doing the grind that I was alluding to earlier that Shadow opted out of for safety reasons and just getting gobs of levels off these iron goals. saltyphry's already into the 20s.
That fighter having 520 HP is going to be pretty useful considering we're unpromoted.
Yeah, fighters have wonderful hit point scaling, pretty good magic defense scaling, and pretty good strength scaling. So you're getting up into the 20s, you're already strong enough to win the end game based on how things roll. But he's missing that Maza. I think it's in a pretty free spot. I think it was in the Sharknado room, which is often checked even by runners in go mode. So there's a good chance Salty will still. Yeah, it was in left side C, but I think it was in the Sharknado room, as called because it has that gray shark encounter tile in between 4 chests.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't cost a lot of steps to check that room, so I think we'll still see Salty grab the Maza later. Meantime, ShadowWalker's checking chests pretty aggressively here in Earth, so we'll see how long he goes, either ribbon or bust, or maybe just a certain amount of checks.
saltyphry taking their party to level 24. That is definitely like completely set for endgame levels. You can take these. You can even get Tophers in these seeds that you can roll and you could do them at like level 20.
Yep. Alternately, we've had a few matches go through 3-4 plus Temple of Fiends Revisited wipes, it really just varies as much as things do vary in a randomizer. Salty taking a really safe approach. No matter what faces him ahead, like this is going to pay off in spades down the seed, I think, because Shadow still has to collect levels, and those fights will cost him time too.
There's a triple eye tile. There's this right there.
Speaking of, gosh, oh my, this is
Their paper
wow, right.
too. Dying to a single ice 3.
Yeah, so I had to collect myself there for a moment. This is pretty much agreed in the community as being the single best grind tile for a lot of factors. If there's no script on eyes, their vanilla stats are not high. They're not going to have much HP and they're not going to hit for much, but they're worth a ton of experience. And this B-side forced encounter tile can roll 2 to 3 of them. You just love to see it. This is actually going to be faster sitting on this spot and safer because he's not advancing the encounter table when he moves between the door and this tile than what saltyphry did. So they both found pretty elite grinds, but Shadow ended up actually getting the better.
Because he can grind on the way and they're pretty easy to take out as well, not costing him too much on the spell charge side.
I would say get your plus RNGs out in chat for saltyphry, who needs a little bit of death touch luck to make it out of Ice Cave still.
He should be okay, yeah.
And he gets that very powerful bank of chests with literally 3 things that you could go into Temple of Fiends equipping. Silver armor is a pretty respectable piece of gear if you don't want to take the time to go back and look at a shop for a gold bracelet.
So one thing of note here that I want to mention, I know we have defense sword, but we have not found a white shirt, or I don't think we've seen Invis 2 yet either.
Yeah, Spell Zap, our tracker, is keeping tabs on the important magic from every level, and in 1 to 6 so far, it doesn't look like we've notated that Invis 2 is available. That's certainly a useful late game spell and something that the White Mage spends a lot of turns doing in Temple of Fiends, but also not one that Shadow, I think, values too highly, so don't think he'll be too worried about it.
saltyphry making it out of Ice Cave, heading back towards Crescent, while my stream buffers hold up.
Yeah, I mean, Salty's following the Ruby just like Shadow was, just a little bit behind on the overall map movement because he did his grind earlier. And also has cleared Volcano already and has that Orblet. The Vampire mini-boss there in the middle of Earth Cave normally guards an incentive chest. That's not incentivized today, it's just a little bit of cash. And ShadowWalker just breezes past the speed bump. ShadowWalker is checking this pretty dense bank of 5 chests here. Only really picks up a Dragon Sword for his efforts, so not super useful. This pack he's just run into here has Stare, so there's a script in here. It could be bad if it gets past that, but he's going to run a little bit and throw out an AoE with the White Mage just to make sure.
saltyphry gonna do some shopping for more camping gear and probably gonna take a save here. Yeah. 300,000 gold, we're sitting pretty for the late game.
Yeah, gear on both sides has been good. Our runners are pretty well fit, whether or not they get to promote. Though granted, for Salty it'd be a little bit more of a penalty, I think, because the ninja does gain so much benefit from that gear upgrade.
One thing of note is that we have buffed thieves to double their hit percent to make them much more able to contribute to DPS in the late game. However, they don't really have the best equipment access, and in order to really be significant, they need to be class promoted so they can use that katana.
Yeah, with this kind of gear breakdown, you would see the fighter and ninja, or rather the knight and ninja, both contribute much more of the offense in the late game if they were promoted. But pre-promotion, there's really no argument. You have to keep the Maza on that fighter and to maximize DPS on someone that's very survivable. I like to take a route sometimes where I put the Maza on the ninja and take advantage of those extra swings while the fighter uses something like Xcal, and so you can get a little bit more total damage out of the two. But if they don't promote, we won't be able to see any kind of strats like that.
ShadowWalker approaching the Lich, probably the easiest boss in the game. Specty with a question in chat. We found one loose item very early in like Temple of Fiends top left, and there was a loose crown.
Blink and you miss it. ShadowWalker lights his first orb at the 53-minute mark, taking out Lich and Earth Cave. Pretty easy fiend in most seeds, and that's 1/4 of the way there. We'll see if this flitterless progression through all the 4 orbs continues.
And it looks like saltyphry is about to hit his go mode.
And this will be another spot where we could see Salty maybe pick up time on Shadow. So he doesn't have to run into the Earth Cave here like Shadow did. That can be done later if you happen across the floater. But if you don't, you're going to pay a routing penalty of needing to go by land and sea to come back to Earth Cave.
Looks like ShadowWalker's heading back towards Sea Shrine. Probably banking on finding the floater to make getting to Volcano that much quicker.
Yep. And will he... So there are a couple of chests he didn't check, obviously. We saw him dive earlier. I don't think he's going to go back right. There were just two or three orphan chests there, but there are a few on the 4th floor on the left side. Will he pass those by, or is he still desperate for that ribbon, or maybe the shot at the floater?
Just that unrunnable Sahag pack again, everyone's favorite.
For Wissahags have Gaze, not as much of a scare as it is early on when we have lower magic defense. And fortunately it's not too deadly.
Couple nukes will take it out pretty quick, and we're back on our way.
And saltyphry getting his 55-minute bridge boss. That's the vanilla credit roll has been moved so that you can trigger it either on the bridge that sits between Astos and the dwarves, or on the vanilla bridge between Caneria and Matoya.
Looks like saltyphry is gonna check the dwarf key locked. I'm not sure if ShadowWalker checked this. It's not looking like it's anything but money though. Yeah, not very useful.
Okay, so Salty is going to dig more key locks, not just the really dense one that he was right next to. I certainly think this play is fine. We still have upside to what we can catch in these chests, as we've been discussing. And Bane Sword, Dragon Armor, things that you'd love to see post-promo for sure.
I mean, Bane Sword got me a kill on Tia on a practice seed, so...
Yeah, Bane's a pretty respectable instant kill, as you discussed earlier, can be used on Fiends. Bane Sword's also one of my secret favorites for post-promotion because it's got a crit rate that's better than like 80% of the weapons in the game if you're super in need of something to kill a high absorb, high fade Fiend.
ShadowWalker healing up before moving on. Gonna check the... Looks like he's gonna check the 2 validation chests up here. No, he's just gonna skip them.
Yeah, he already collected these on his way to Sharknado, and by that down movement he just took there, I think we'll see him full clear this floor. There's go modes, and then there's like kind of scary go modes, and he's in kind of a scary go mode right now where the stuff he could miss by not checking chests is super high impact, so I understand him deviating a little bit, but no, he just walked up.
Keep going, he must know he's in go mode.
Alright, here we go. No more chests on this floor.
This is shaping up to be a very close race.
Yeah, it's going to be especially interesting to see them sequence all of their orbs together. Shadow, of course, about to get a 1-orb lead, but the order that you go to these dungeons in and where a loose item, for example, might land could still swing the final approach to Temple of Fiends.
Gonna heal up real quick before continuing, while saltyphry does a little bit of inventory management, checking his key item. Quick save at the end and we're off again.
Yep, so now we get to see if Salty prioritizes Earth, which, if you're full clearing, is pretty slow, but if you're go-moding it, isn't too shabby. And if he feels comfortable with his gear and minus a floater, that'll of course inform his decision.
Throwing out a nuke, 268, one more nuke, 172. Moss's swing, 63. And he punches for 426, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah, this is certainly looking like a scary Kraken from a physical perspective, but not too much HP and goes down to that cast of the black shirt.
Something to note is that he did cast Wall there, which is basically Ribbon and a spell charge. It will protect one of your characters from all sorts of elements and status effects that you don't want him to get hit.
Yep, Wall, learnable by 2 of the characters, though I don't know if his Red Mage has it, isn't decent stand-in for having Ribbon and TOFR, but at the downside of having to spend a turn using it and needing to get turn order in advance of something scary like Bane or Crack.
Not to mention, if you don't do it at the right time and your caster gets one-shotted, then you're kind of... your life caster gets one-shotted, then you're kind of screwed for the rest of the dungeon.
The bats weren't playing super friendly there with saltyphry. Shout out to the bats. They're a little less annoying in the randomizer than vanilla because a lot of the bats were removed. The developers just threw a bunch of bats into the bat room, which we probably won't see any runners visit.
Not without NPC guillotine on.
Kind of gross, unrunnable pack here of our Ankylos on ShadowWalker's side. Those things, as you can see, one of them just hit for 240 damage. You don't want to be in that fight for too long.
Ankylos are never very nice. Something of note here is that ShadowWalker did not pick up any more heal potions before coming here.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay with the amount of curative magic available. Just having a white mage with low-level cure 4, that's like worth 40 heal potions or something, maybe more in a dive.
I would still buy a couple more stacks of them.
Yeah, and I think he will before his final TOF dive, for sure. saltyphry, thankfully having a ribbon on one of his characters, was able to get past that Grey Wolf encounter that spit out damage poison, so he's still on his feet, heading towards the end of Earth Cave and skipping a lot of chests, so doesn't seem to care about what else is there. He's comfortable with what he's got.
Those vampires have trance. Trance is very annoying.
Yeah, trance is one of the sort of 1-2 punch of the absolute worst enemy in vanilla, at least in my opinion. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Sorcerers in vanilla have Death Touch, which we've seen on the Wraiths, and Trance, which we just saw on the Vampires. Trance is an AoE non-elemental, which means it can't be resisted, stun effect, and I've seen so many wipes in both the vanilla game and the randomized game to stun lock some parties, then the enemies proceed to their other dangerous things, and it's game over.
ShadowWalker finally into Sky Palace. Is going to take this eye really quick while saltyphry finishes their Earth Cave dive by killing Lich. Going to be the second orb lit for both runners.
I like what ShadowWalker's doing here. So he's not checked every chest en route going through these Fiend dungeons, but he is checking chest dense spots. So all those scattered ones in the bottom of C, that takes a lot to loop around. You get more encounters. There are forced tiles to check them, whereas this right side bank on Sky 1 had 5 in one spot.
See if he checks the validation chest here. I assume he will. Yep.
And Salty did light his second orb, just went through Lich as easily as ShadowWalker did. So once again, we're at an orb tie, but with a little bit of a foot race progression in favor of ShadowWalker since he's most of the way up Sky Palace.
There we see a white shirt in the validation chest. White shirts cast Invis 2 when used as an item in battle, and Invis 2 will buff your entire party's evade.
Yeah, it's a really solid pickup. You have a nice safety net there, especially if you want to have like the white mage cast some kind of evasion stacking, someone else use a white shirt. That's a lot better than just throwing out one invis per turn.
Get your Bliss RNGs out in chat for a Warmech sighting.
Yeah, we love to hope for the Warmech fight. That's normally pretty rare here on this so-called Bridge of Destiny on the 5th floor of the Sky Palace leading to Tiamat. In the vanilla game, it's encounter 7, which is pretty uncommon, but we shuffle the encounter rarity in the randomizer, so Warmech can appear not only more frequently overall, but also multiple times in the same seed without too much difficulty.
I've definitely seen back-to-back Warmechs before, and let me tell you, they're a real treat.
Yeah, I think Shadow would be in a pretty solid position to take down a Warmech fight, and it's usually worth the time if your gear and magic are good enough because of all the experience you get out of it. It will absolutely level your whole party once and sometimes twice.
Warmech gives the highest amount of experience in the game. It's usually around 35,000, at least by this point in the run, because we have a flag on that ups the experience gain by 5% per key item you find.
Yep, but Shadow didn't encounter, is already onto Tiamat, is doing a mix of damaging strategies and Break. Tiamat is weak to the Stone Poison element, which Break and Bane are both members of, so actually switching back to Nuke after the break doesn't land, so probably thinking damage strats will be enough to get there. Does about 1200 total and gets through Tiamat 1.
Third orb for ShadowWalker, one more and we'll be seeing our final dungeon.
Yep, Salty on the way to a third orb here too. Shadow's last orb to light though is going to be really quick. He will be passing by a ribbon if he doesn't check anything in Volcano, so that could be kind of a make or break.
If Topher's simple, Masa will just cut through everything and you probably won't have to worry about a ribbon. But otherwise it could decide the race.
Yeah. And so on Shadow's side, we've seen all the chests, all the new information that we're gonna see, pretty much. There's basically no chance Shadow ends up with the floater. So if it's gonna be a seed where anyone gets in the air, even just to quickly class change, clean up a little bit right before Temple of Fiends, it's not gonna happen for him. And Salty, TBD, he might check, say, the left side bank when he gets into Sky 1. He might check the top bank of chests in Sky 3. Still a couple of spots where that could land.
ShadowWalker on his way back to Provoka, probably to pick up some camping gear for Volcano and maybe to stock up on heal potions as well.
Yep. And as I was predicting earlier, Salty does get that Mazos in a pretty free chest. Almost no way you skip those if you still have high upside things to be gained from short checks on your go mode. So it would be worth talking a little bit now about the runner's lead and what could happen from here to the end. ShadowWalker has the orb lead and is probably going to hit Temple of Fiends Revisited first. His levels are on average a bit lower. Neither of our runners are promoted. It will probably take a ShadowWalker wipe sometime around carry 2 or later, at this point, I think, for saltyphry to then either get ahead or catch up to even, based on the time difference between them right now.
Gonna abandon the ship and just head straight for Volcano.
Not a bad play. You don't love to navigate the river system this much in the late game, but this is what the randomizer can force you to do sometimes.
Considering he's in god mode, I would assume he just wants to clear as quickly as he possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, from navigating from sky, it's certainly a good route. I don't know if going around, like wrapping around the right side of the southeast continent with your ship and docking somewhere in the middle of the river system is faster. It is a lower encounter rate on the sea, but regardless, we got Salty taking on Kraken 1 on the right side here. Whole party looks darked, but dark status doesn't matter too much.
Dark status in this game only decreases the amount of hits your melee attacks do by 1, so not very useful. You don't
It's
really
actually
have to worry
even
about
less
it.
dangerous than that. It doesn't affect the total number of hits that can roll, just your accuracy on any one of those hits landing, but 40 is very small in the overall hit accuracy formula.
Well, there we go. Not a very useful status effect to worry.
Yep, and that non-danger aside, saltyphry has already dispatched of Kraken and lit his third orb, so orb lead ties up again. ShadowWalker, he's booking it, and yeah, we're not going to see him pick up that ribbon. He gets a katana though, which is kind of just a little funny for the runner that didn't take a thief. That's his second katana.
ShadowWalker about to pull carry and light his fourth and final orb.
Yeah, this is exciting. Also, quick shout out to one of my favorite encounters in the game on saltyphry's screen here. These sandworms are pretty experience dense and low HP, and just got a little jolt from that fight. But regardless, carry fight going on for ShadowWalker.
Shouldn't last too long, down in 2 hits. And the fourth and final orb has boomlit.
Yeah, I mean, for floaterless, this has been a bit of a rip-roaring seed. When you only need to find one of the loose items to win, that improves the game time quite substantially. And we could see ShadowWalker all the way up to Temple of Fiends in about maybe a minute or two of navigation from here.
Should be before the 115 mark. He's probably going to want to stop to buy more supplies and then maybe buy a stack of tents to push his heal pots into the right spot.
Yeah, or just burn off the other. Actually, wait. What's his? Does he? If he has any saving gear right now, he probably just burns off what he has rather than buying new
like
stuff. But if
40 houses.
40 houses. Okay, yeah. In that case, you're recommending a great strat.
Right. In this case, I would think buying more is just quicker.
Yeah, totally agreed. And there are also some runners who their menuing is so good that they wouldn't do either because they can move to the spot for the heal potions so quickly.
Nope, he's just gonna opt to go straight in. Not even gonna worry about it.
Go ahead. A little bit of Trance Revolution vampires here for saltyphry as he makes his ascent up the Mirage Tower, and ShadowWalker, once he gets past this Mad Pony semi-boss, is going to get in at the hour 11 mark. That's a... Oh, wait. He's not going into the past yet.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if Floater was in here?
It would be beyond hilarious. Because what are you going to do with it right now besides stare at it and get a little extra experience?
It'll move his heal potions.
Oh, good point. Ooh, just a light axe.
Meh. Good really, or not now.
Yep. So at the hour 12-minute mark, ShadowWalker actually has entered Temple of Fiends Revisited, the first amongst our match today.
Immediately attacked by unrunnable frosties.
Yeah, these can be a little bit of a slog if they roll high evade, because then your melees can't take them down that quickly. They're low evade today, but high HP, so they're actually taking multiple rounds from Maza. saltyphry taking a lot of these encounters on the way up Sky and Mirage to just really round out his levels for Topher safety. As we've talked before, it can roll very dangerous, and you want to maximize your odds of getting through the first try, especially with an unpromoted party.
Some Gasties, very good experience encounter, but they typically roll high HP and take forever to.
This is kind of a funny French vanilla palette swap action we have here. So ShadowWalker ran into that spike tile, which, like all the other ones, is shuffled. Blue dragons with the same sprite as gas dragons appeared and cast the gas dragon's vanilla ability of damage poison. And ShadowWalker also checked the final two most convenient checks in the game. Inside that room, there are no random encounters, so it's pretty free to go look at them if you're, again, still desperate for a shot at a ribbon.
We are approaching the Earth floor where we'll have our first Fiend refight with Lich 2. He typically isn't too dangerous, but can roll some nasty spells.
And on saltyphry's screen, another opportunity to get out your Bless RNGs and Mr. Destructoids in chat, because we could see a Warmech fight. Both runners taking the fights they're forced to. Unrunnable Nachos, unrunnable Frost Dragons, but you know they want to start booking it. Each one of them's got to feel a little bit of the pressure of the late game of like, all right, it's Topher time. Where's my opponent at?
It's down to the wire. I don't want to be fighting these.
Yeah, it can really come down to the encounters that you run into in Topher. If you go in off of Power Cycle and start the encounter table at the beginning versus if you go in some later point, one person can get a bunch of unrunnables, the other doesn't, and you can see runners zigzag past each other. But ShadowWalker about to pull the first revisited Fiend fight here with Lich 2 after he heals up. He's respecting Lich, very important. Any party member that's below 400 HP can just die to a first turn nuke, so good thing to guard around that.
That includes our life casters, so we do not want them to go down to a first turn nuke under any circumstance. And there he goes, 2 nukes, do it.
Yeah, so that's kind of our timing. We've got the first Fiend refight out of the way for ShadowWalker, while saltyphry is on the last initial Fiend, about to light the 4th orb once Tia goes down. So yeah, ShadowWalker pulling carry shortly is a little bit further ahead than I estimated before. It would require a... Oh! Check this out!
Whoa, that's not something you ever see. He really wants that ribbon.
Yeah, those chests, some people who play the randomizer don't even know they're there. But vanilla casual players will know that you can look on this floor for things like a Pro Cape and a second katana. Anyways, carry time.
Carry 2 can be very dangerous because she can roll very high attack power and potentially one-shot one of your characters, including your fight.
Yep, the saving grace is that carry's vanilla HP is 700, so it can roll quite low. And slow 2, the spell slow 2, super dangerous to see in a late fight, is out of the pool, out of the way, and didn't hit someone that mattered.
Seems like she has very high defense, though.
Oof, high, yeah. Oh, this is
nuke. Yikes.
So we're looking at a high HP, high defense carry that eats a bunch of nukes, but thankfully life casters survive and we're good to go. if you had seen that nuke do worse damage, for example, saltyphry booking it up through the forests and the marsh tiles and fighting Grimps, he's just about to join ShadowWalker and Topher.
Crabcake explaining in chat that those checks were indeed a veteran move.
Yeah, the spring tournament's just bringing out the best in all of our runners. You love to see stuff like that. I talked a little bit about it earlier, seeing things I've never seen in the randomizer before. We're going to keep seeing that all tournament long because people are pulling out every strategy they can.
All in the name of a ribbon. Which is dangerous because we could potentially see Zap. Zap is in the spell pool of Fiends, and that can pretty much instantly destroy a run.
Yes. I want to point out a small thing I noticed on saltyphry's screen there. The Thief has respectable levels, respectable enough, in fact, that with a Coral Sword, Salty was hitting for 4 hits and over 200 damage on the Frost Dragons, so you could still see that Thief contribute maybe even fiend-killing damage to one of these late bosses.
If he doesn't die first.
Naturally. And speaking of things that threaten death, here comes Kraken 2, a very dangerous physical threat. You just want to get this fight over with as fast as possible.
He's very capable of just punching your characters for 10 hits, 900 damage, and wrecking your deck. And there comes a first turn rub, immediately killing the red mage. Oh, but he doesn't have any HP.
Yeah, that's a pretty free Kraken, all things considered. Rub would have been resisted by a Pro Ring. I'm not sure if the red mage has one or if that was a 3 in 256 chance.
Yeah, that was like... Chat pointing out that was like a 450 HP Kraken.
Very low, and very low favors ShadowWalker's overall game plan as well as how he's running in this particular seed.
Temper was level 5, wasn't it? There's a first turn Tornado.
Yeah, Tornado is a skill that comes off of Vanilla Chaos's very dangerous skill list and is non-elemental AoE, though not as dangerous as Nuke. The Mazza's already hitting for a lot though, so I think we're going to be okay in this fight.
All it takes is one nasty Tia punch, but there he goes.
Yeah, Tia is a physical threat, not quite as much as Kraken, half the number of hits, but does have a little bit higher base attack power, so those can roll up or down, and they end up both being physically threatening.
Kraken just hits a lot.
Yeah. And speaking of a lot of hits, that's what we're going to try and do to Chaos here. We're going to be going in healing up. ShadowWalker's going to optimize his party's equipment, its positioning, and put the most important classes in the back to try and get through this fight. He has fast and a lot of AoE, non-elemental damage at his disposal.
Right,
leading
Chaos
off with
Chaos pulled at 120.
We're leading off with Fast and Lock. Great idea because Chaos can roll very high evade on this flag set. And oof, Chaos immediately counters the Zap. The 2 black casting mages are down, so further locks are off the table. What kind of evade are we looking at here for this Chaos? We're going to need to see that after ShadowWalker's done some Power Gauntlet stacks, which cast Saber.
Hopefully it's not too bad, because that would be really upsetting to see a wipe here.
Yeah, he's taking care of his physical defenses, though, getting up these white shirt stacks, and one-shots Chaos!
Get your GGs in chat.
Absolutely. ShadowWalker demolishes Chaos with just 2 light warriors up for first place with an SRL time of 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 20 seconds. GG. What a finish. Salty was here and is still here in Temple of Fiends and absolutely had a chance, but the way the Temple of Fiends rolled tonight was just in ShadowWalker's favor.
Chaos one-shot is not something you see every day.
Yep, and for all kinds of good reasons here, we continue to see Salty play through the seed. I personally like to finish out if I'm late in the game on a restream. You want to give everyone their chance to see what their time would be relative to their opponent and get that payoff from all that work they put in. So we're going to continue calling this match, and saltyphry's run through Temple of Fiends Revisited. And we're joined in the chat room by ShadowWalker. GG.
Thank you. I think Chaos
fantastic
forgot
showing.
to have some HP.
By ShadowWalker. Yeah, that looked a little bit like the Chaos we saw a few runs ago for Maya.
Fantastic showing.
Yeah, that looked a little bit like
was the only
Chaos
attack that I did.
Yeah,
That was the first time that I did damage. He rolled less than 1100 HP.
Yeah, we were definitely shocked to see that end so quickly. The zap and then swinging all the way back to the one-shot kill. It's just like suddenly it's like it's bad and then it's over.
Yep. So I debated whether to wall or white shirt on the first round, and I decided to go with white shirt thinking that Chaos was going to start swinging, and then I saw the zap and I was like, well, I picked wrong. So I quickly switched over to wall, and then by the time he ever did anything elemental again, the fight was over. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're well known for your reputation and how you play seeds, and especially how you attack Temple of Fiends Revisited, being fast, focus on offense on the Fiend fights, and usually you even take a double Black Mage composition. But today you took that White Mage. How did that work for you?
Oh, the White Mage did exactly what I wanted it to do. It had early access to Exit, which is the big reason that I like running White Mage in these seeds. With having to open so many boxes, Exit and Warp feel particularly important on this flag set. And the level 2 life in Cure 4 was just icing on the cake. That made it much, much safer.
Yeah, having redundant life casters pre-promotion even, because as surprise, floaterless go mode meant that even though we didn't get it on the night, we still had some backup safeties for Temple of Fiends.
Yeah, and it was a little bit unfortunate that I couldn't afford life on the first time around that I was in Provoka. I don't remember whether it was Waterfall or Sea or somewhere where it would have been nice, but got by without it until I eventually swept back around.
Yeah, and the usual gatekeepers in the seed weren't really gatekeeping much of anything. Kraken, who saltyphry is about to pull, had low HP. Tiamat had low absorb. The Maza was hitting for a ton just right off the bat. Carry was the only one that seemed to give a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, and honestly, that's my fault. I should have expected that I needed to do more damage, so I should have thrown nukes in round 2. And if I would have thrown nukes in round 2 instead of Ice 3s, I never would have seen that nuke.
Yeah, it's very important for anyone watching and anyone in chat who's newer to the randomizer, learning the game, or maybe a contestant in the spring tournament yourself. You gotta go back and look at how you played the seed, consider your plays. There are a lot of things that you can go and optimize if you're really looking for ways to improve. Shadow just giving us an example there of how you could pick a different set of spells to cast and make all the difference in a Fiend fight. And as chat points out, saltyphry just ran into that Iron Goal encounter, which we saw a lot of this stream. Shadow, you didn't choose to grind it there, while saltyphry did take it up to, I think, early to mid-20s on his 3-member party. What do you have to say about that one?
The Iron Goals looked like they were relatively low HP, but I was in the middle of diving for what I hoped was... what I hoped was the floater at the time. I was hoping the ice was going to give me the floater. But then it had the incentive that led to the last item that I needed. I considered the golems. The only reason that I opted against it was because I saw that the wraiths had death touch, and I didn't want to stick around in ice longer than I needed to.
Yeah, that's all very sound reasoning. You don't want to lose that whole dive and any levels you did gain along the way. Because as you look at the time, right, saltyphry is on Tiamat just a couple minutes after you were, a wipe in one dungeon, and this could have been a foot race to the finish.
Yeah, wipes are extremely costly. That's actually the reason that I backed out of doing C, because I was going to kill Kraken, and even when I got stone touched on the night, I was still going to go after Kraken because I had the Brax and I had the nukes. But then I saw Mazza and Sunsword, and I was like, okay, these are really, really good items. I don't want to lose time having to redive to get these, and I want these before I go anywhere else. So I'm going to just take the time loss, come back to C later, and like save all this EXP, save all these items, because I think that will be more beneficial in the long run. And it seemed to have paid off.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, it was definitely a veteran move, as they're called. Just quickly, I wanted to note for chat and the video, we've got saltyphry about to pull Chaos, rearranging his party for optimal gear and party order situation, using up as many of his heals as he can, and we'll be taking on this 1100 HP or less Chaos that Shadow dispatched of a few minutes ago. Starting off with a fast, looks like a nuke, yep, from the red mage, and gonna power bonk with the fighter.
Not really necessary here. I think the fast would be plenty, but
Yeah, but you can't know that, of course, and there could be things behind that zap that we never saw. If Chaos had decided instead of physically attacking to go zap, nuke, and then suddenly you're in a bind and maybe you think it's important to play defensively with your fighter, there would be more opportunity for Chaos to pull out something nasty, but should be gone this turn or next. And there it goes. So saltyphry has finished out the seed with an official time of 1 hour, 28 minutes, 47 seconds. Get out your GGs for saltyphry as well. We will also be asking Salty about an interview and getting him in here shortly if he's interested. Meanwhile, while we wait for our second runner to come into the booth, let me just say to everyone, the Final Fantasy Randomizer tournament is ongoing. We have races happening across the Speed Gaming, Randomania, and RPG Limit Break networks. Lots of action every week. This is the first round of Swiss. There are 37 matches a week thanks to 74 entrants being paired up, and no shortage of action if you want to watch live or watch our VODs. But for now, saltyphry has joined us in the booth. GG.
Hello, GG.
GG, Salty.
So it's been great to have both of you here, by the way, now that you're both in the booth. We were very complimentary of not only how you played this seed and were so competitive with each other, but also just your history as runners, two people who've made deep runs in spring tournaments before. And no matter if you're in the 1-0 or 0-1 bracket right now, I think people have to be on the lookout for both of you.
Yeah, this definitely wasn't the ideal round one matchup, that's for sure. But it is what it is in these tournaments. Anything can happen with who you get matched up with. So I don't know if it's only one loss. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so about that seed, I guess there are a couple of points of decisions that you made that were different from Shadow, but not too many because you both largely went to the same areas of the map in roughly the same order, and then also go moded without your floater and didn't bother looking for it. But there were a couple of things that differentiated you. Salty, you just did right side C and then pieced out, while Shadow dove and actually got the Mazza like way earlier.
Yeah, that definitely would have been nice to have a lot earlier. I was thinking about that when I actually picked that up. I'm like, oh, if I just come right down here. But I wasn't really too confident in what I had to actually take out Kraken at that point in time. So I kind of got, I guess it was a Canoe that was up there. And I'm like, all right, let's go explore all this other stuff. Come back here. I figured I'd be coming back with a floater at some point in time, so getting back there wouldn't be too bad. So much for the floater part, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh. Never did see that.
Definitely lots of spots it could have been. Most of sky, most of Mirage Tower, most of Earth. So yeah, there was still plenty of spots for it.
No, I would have had to been in one of those because we combined with both of you. We saw you full clear all the rest of the spots.
But nobody went to Marsh, I want to say, right?
No one went to Marsh at all.
Nope. Didn't do Marsh. I didn't do most of the key locked chests.
And The only ribbon between the two of you, by the way, didn't even come out of Kelox. It was in Volcano, which, because Salty went there before Ice Cave, full cleared, found the one ribbon, which you ended up passing by.
Oh, which floor?
Armory?
Yeah, figures. So I didn't have a ribbon, which was concerning. That's why I was still opening chests and why I even opened those chests on Carrie's floor. But I did have wall as a backup plan, so that was always in the back of my mind as like a failsafe.
Yeah, it's a great approach. You made opportunistic checks. You went for some high density stuff that was relatively in path. And honestly, chat loved it. We loved it when you went to those very uncommon chests on Carrie's floor. You might even influence more people in the tournament to do that after showing it off today.
It's scary to do, but you always have to remember that sometimes RNG works out in your favor. Obviously, that turn 1 against Chaos could have gone much differently. That fighter could have actually died to the zap, and that would have ended that dive, and then it would have been a really, really close race. Salty probably would have been slightly ahead of me at that point, but sometimes you can get by without it. You can always bank on your utility spells. Spells like A Rub are actually quite good against a lot of the instant death spells in the game.
Yeah, you're when you were on C floor, Salty was just entering Temple of Fiends, so a wipe around that time that would have put you neck and neck. Salty and ShadowWalker, do either of you have more freeform thoughts about the seed, things you'd like to say about this run or the tournament overall?
I just can't wait to watch this one back. I was really excited to get matched up against Saltyphry. I knew that he was a really strong player in the community in tournaments past, and he hadn't been around for a while, so I was really excited to see how this match played out. So definitely going to be fun to watch back.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely should be. Looks like it was a close race one way or another, so I'm sure it's exciting for people to watch. So I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, and look out for both of these runners next week. Going to be putting up tough races, and there'll be, again, some of the many, many, many people going across all these different channels on Twitch. Make sure to follow our runners. You're going to want to catch what they've got going in the next 5 weeks of Swiss. In the meantime, we'll be starting to head out here, wrap up the broadcast. So I'll ask you, Min, my co-commentary partner, for your final thoughts.
Then it was a really solid showing from both of you.
Yeah, pleasure to watch and pleasure to cast. I love to see Final Fantasy Randomizer executed at a high level like this, and definitely see some tension and have it be, not a taken for granted lead between one runner and the other. So pretty competitive. Um, shout outs again to our crew behind the scenes, Leggy Starscream pulling together the restream for today. It's Spellzap, our tracker, taking very thorough notes that helped us as the broadcasters out throughout the run. Thank you so much to RPG Limit Break for hosting this event. We've got so many races to try and restream. Every network that can help us out counts.